I don't know how much more is left to say. I just don't see how the Panthers can win games with this defense.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe or follow the show for free on YouTube, where I am live now and live following every Carolina Panthers game and anytime there's any big breaking news. And if you ever miss a live episode here on YouTube, it's going to be right there in your feed to watch afterwards, or you can listen wherever you listen to your favorite podcast here, Locked On Panthers. And be sure to listen to me, or actually follow me on Twitter at Julian Council, where on Wednesdays throughout the entirety of the regular season, I'm right here on the show answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. All you got to do is either at me or DM me on Twitter at Julian Council. You get your questions in for this weekly Wednesday mailbag edition of Locked On Panthers. And since the game is over right now, go ahead, get those questions into me right now and let me know what your thoughts are on the game and what your thoughts are about the Carolina Panthers moving forward. This episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. The Panthers 20, the Atlanta Falcons 38, and honestly, I don't really know what more can be said about what we've seen defensively from this Panthers unit 5 of the 6 weeks this season. And coincidentally, those 5 weeks have all been losses for the Panthers. This is just not a defense this team can win with. We saw once the offense of Andy Dalton inserted at quarterback was shown to be functional, and that there were actually players on this roster that could help them move the football down, that the Panthers could be competitive with that offense. But with this defense attached to this offense, which is a much better unit than what it was the first 2 weeks of the season with Bryce Young, but still not an overwhelmingly talented, great unit. Chuba Hubbard's been outstanding so far this season when given the opportunity to run the football, which I still feel like didn't happen enough in this game. Deontay Johnson, when given the opportunity, has been a dynamic playmaker for Carolina. We saw Xavier Legette have a touchdown in this game. Jalen Coker made some plays. JT Sanders as well. There were pieces that you can look at in the future and think about what this offense potentially can be as long as the quarterback position is figured out down the road. But that's not a conversation for today. Overall, offensively, you can win with this offense. Defensively, paired with the offense, I just don't see how the Panthers are going to be able to win games moving forward based off of what we saw week 1 against New Orleans, week 2 against the Chargers, week 4 against the Bengals, week 5 against the Bears, and today. So I wanted to believe after that game in Las Vegas, I just had seen some hellacious defense week 1 and week 2 to fully buy in to this team being able to fully turn things around here in 2024. And we've seen why over the last 3 weeks, as they have lost 3 straight games, are now 1-5. And it feels like it's going to be it for the Panthers as far as competition sakes goes and their opportunity to be in contention for the division or a wild card. I just don't see how it's going to happen with this defense. And I looked at the game at halftime where the Panthers are only down 22-17. That's not a massive margin at all. They were down 22-10. Andy Dalton was able to orchestrate a great drive at the end of the half, hitting JT Sanders, hitting Xavier Legette for that touchdown, seeing Jalen Coker touch the ball twice, and Dalton even scrambling for 18 yards. That was a crucial drive for the Panthers to get, knowing that Atlanta got the ball right after the half. But at halftime, the real difference in the game, a game where Carolina had the lone takeaway and cast it in for 3 points, was the fact that the Falcons were 3 for 3 in the red zone, scoring touchdowns, and the Panthers were 2 for 3. That was it. That was the difference in the game. So if Carolina could just get red zone stops, and also when they got to the red zone, cashed in for touchdowns, this team would have an opportunity to win the game. But it felt like, though, they were still chasing things as the Falcons were getting the ball back. They don't do anything to start off the half, but the Panthers also aren't able to turn that into a touchdown drive. And you see where there's just no margin for error for this team at all, where the Falcons come out, kick a field goal, they're up 25-17. The Panthers go down, kick a field goal, it's 25-20. Then it's 28-20. And then the interception happens on a drive where we talk about how dedicated is Dave Canales truly to running the football. A drive where you see an 8-yard reception to JT Sanders, followed by a 9-yard run to Chuba, a 12-yard run to Chuba, a 5-yard run to Chuba, an 8-yard run to Chuba, 12-yard pass to Deontay Johnson, 2-yard run to Chuba, and then it's let's throw this crossing route to Ian Thomas, and that gets cut off by A.J. Terrell. Now, Mike Sanchez on the broadcast on Fox is saying that Thomas didn't run a great route, all that. I mean, yada, yada, yada. But still, you got to be able – I don't understand why they're throwing them the ball in that situation. And then defensively, they come out right after that, and the Falcons go 9 plays, 84 yards, and 70 yards of those 80 were all on the ground. They ran it right down their throat. You saw one of those plays where Tyler Algier just could not be tackled by Panthers defenders. Just ran through them and also got a nice push from the pile. Bijan Robinson and Algier today combined for 33 carries, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The Panthers' run defense has been hellacious all season long, but in a situation where the offense has a tough turnover, still you're only down 1 possession. There's plenty of time left to play in that game, and they let the Falcons go 9 plays, 84 yards, 70 of them coming on the ground, and offered little to no resistance. And overall in this game, Atlanta turns out they were 4 for 8 in the red zone, which will help the Panthers stats, but really they were 4 for 6. One of them where they got stopped was the end of the game after the Clark Phillips interception of Andy Dalton when the game is already over. The second one was Younghoe Koo kicking a field goal where the Falcons just didn't convert a 3rd down and 6, where if they did, they could have just knelt out the rest of the game. And that was the time where they decided, all right, let's just kick it, where it wasn't like they were really trying to score a touchdown in that situation anyways. So truly, when they wanted to score, they were 4 for 6. And the 2 times where it didn't really work out were at the beginning of the half, and Carolina had opportunities offensively where they went down the field, had to settle for a field goal, had a holding call that brought back a positive Chuba Hubbard run. And that was kind of a common theme where we saw some drives that were derailed by some of the offensive line penalties, whether it was a false start or holding. There's just no margin for error for this Panthers offense this season based off of just how this defense has played and just the fact they can't get off the field. And looking just at the Falcons, just drive charts throughout the season or throughout the game, they punted 3 and out to start off the game. That's touchdown. They fumble, touchdown, touchdown, end of half, field goal, touchdown, field goal, end of game. They're not getting stops. The Falcons, they punted 1 time, and that was to open up the game. And the rest of the time, they're going down the field and getting points. I don't know, y'all. I really don't know what more to say other than the fact that this is not a good defense. And I thought that they would be better against the run this season, and that has not been the case. So hand up. I got that one wrong. I thought secondary-wise, there were certainly concerns opposite of J.C. Horn. I don't think that's the biggest concern. The fact that they get blown out the ball, the fact that they can't tackle, and the Falcons figured out the secondary where there was some openings there for Drake London in that game in the second half. I just don't know what they do well at all. And it's not like the talent level overall is the best, and the injuries certainly have not helped out. It's just plain and simple. This is a bad defense, and this defense is holding back the Carolina Panthers from winning games. I just don't think this was a bad offensive performance. I don't think it was a great one by any stretch of the imagination, but still, like 20 points, you can win games in the NFL scoring 20 points. Last week, you can't win scoring 10 points. When your defense is giving up 38, 36, 34, 26, 47, how are you going to win those games? When they beat the Raiders, the defense gave up 22, and Carolina scored 36 points. The 2 weeks prior to this, combined, they had scored 34 points offensively. If you're having to score 35 points in order to win football games, you're not going to win a lot of games. And the Panthers offense Dalton has been solid for them. Johnson, good player. Chuba obviously has been outstanding. They're not equipped to win shootouts. So, I mean, they're going to get wins. It's going to happen. I'm at a loss for words, just how bad this defense has been. And I don't know where they go from here. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know what more to say. I really don't. I guess we can talk about Ejiro Evero because I know there's a lot of heat on him, and there's wondering whether there should be blame placed on him. Obviously, he is the DC, so he's got to accept some level of the blame that's happened, if not all of it, if you want to go there. And he talked about it on Thursday that there's no excuse for how poorly they played. There certainly are some excuses, but yes, there really is not much of an excuse other than some of the things I may excuse here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers, as I'll continue to find a way to sum up this Panthers 38-20 loss, other than the fact that the defense is bad, and I don't really know how it's going to get better. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to the doctor's office, get treated for ED. Through HIMS, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices varies based on product and subscription plan. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses. Here are just a few of the courses available right now. Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution. Introduction to free market economics. The Great American Story, A Land of Hope. The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/locked-on to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/locked-on to register. hillsdale.edu/locked-on. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, 125 people live with me on this Sunday evening following the Carolina Panthers 38-20 loss. And quite frankly, y'all, I am kind of at a loss for words. I was putting my notes together as I do throughout the game and try to figure out what I'm going to say after it. And I really didn't have much more to say than what I've said in weeks past. And I don't ever want to come across as like a Debbie Downer, lay down Larry, whatever. I don't want to be the guy who is raining on anybody's parade, because I thought a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas was awesome. It was great to see just a cathartic day where the offense was outstanding. We saw what they potentially could be with a quarterback that could deliver the ball on time, who could trust the pocket. We got to see that afternoon. And it was great for Panther fans to sit there. You get that win. You look at the rest of the division. Yeah, you're only 3 weeks in, but you're only one game out. And now you have an effective offense and you can move forward and believe that at least offensively, you have a chance. If you can't score, then we've seen it in the past. Those are just brutal games to watch. Week 1, week 2, it's not fun to watch what happened against the Bengals, but that's a normal loss. It's not fun to watch what happened today, but in a way, kind of it's a normal loss. It's a blowout, but it's not like you were completely inept offensively watching the Carolina Panthers today. But I hate it, but it's not like it's that surprising. It really shouldn't be. And I was just cautious a couple weeks ago when they beat the Raiders. Like, okay, awesome. We know what this offense can be. Will they be this every week? No, and they certainly have not been that since the Raiders game. But today, they could have certainly at least got another score. That would have helped. as far as just looking at overall offensive performance, and I would have felt fine about it. I'd give him like a C plus, a B minus. It wasn't great offense. The Bengals game left some opportunities out there with some drops late, but also the opening drive not being able to cash in there. But still, it was a fine offensive performance that some teams in the NFL can actually win with every single Sunday. So when you get today's performance in the offense and the Bengals performance, like those are performances where you can find a way to win games unless this is a defense that is attached to it. So when they beat the Raiders, I told you, I was like, okay, great. Like, will this defense prove that they are who they were against Las Vegas, or are they going to revert back to what they were week 1 and week 2? And we've seen them regress right back to what they were those first 2 weeks and what they have been aside from that afternoon in Las Vegas. And it's tough to see, but it's not surprising because I just, Brian Burns is a great player, y'all. And I know people didn't want to have him get paid a ton of money. But when you replace Brian Burns with Jadeveon Clowney, you get worse. Clowney, great player coming out of South Carolina, has not been a Pro Bowler since he left Houston. And he had a good season last year. Everyone had a good season on that defense, coached up by Mike McDonald last year in Baltimore. Like, he's just not a difference maker at this point in time in his career. He just isn't, and really hasn't been the kind of difference maker that he was expected to be. So while you should have theoretically gotten better against the run, you got worse at that spot. Lou was a better player than Josie Jewell. I think we all agreed there was going to be a drop-off there. The hope was that Josie coming into this scheme would help, but he's now missed the last 2 games, and that hasn't helped matters. Shaq Thompson, of course, out for the rest of the season. They didn't have Derek Brown today. Didn't have Josie. Didn't have Shaq. Didn't have DJ Wonnum, who we don't know when he's going to come back, and he's supposed to be a key part of this defense as an edge rusher. They haven't had Dane Jackson so far this season. Not quite sure what his impact was going to be. And Mike Jackson, he's been fine, and I think as much as you could expect from somebody who you trade for, giving up your 7th-round pick, Michael Barrett, for late in August. I mean, Dante Jackson, whatever, like Jeremy Chinwood didn't fit. Von Belgis didn't fit. Torgos Matos. But I look across the board, I just don't see that much talent on this roster. Clowney's been a journeyman for a reason. And I brought up the fact that he had not signed a contract in March, and it finally happened. But what has he really done so far this season to justify the kind of money the Panthers gave him? Nothing. Hey, TJ Wonnum, we have not seen him. A'Shawn Robinson has been available. He has been a consistent player for them, but he's playing on a terrible defensive line. Josie Jewell missed the last 2 games, been okay. Dane Jackson, we have not seen him play. Jordan Fuller's been on IR the last couple of weeks. Nick Scott hasn't been all that great. So they added these players defensively, and they really, like, which of those guys has really been a plus for this defense so far this season? Robinson, maybe? I don't know. Ejiro Evero, the topic of conversation I'm seeing from a lot of Panther fans is that this is on him. He is a defensive coordinator. This is his scheme. Guys like A'Shawn Robinson and Josie Jewell and Jordan Fuller and Nick Scott were his guys coming into play his system, and things have been worse this year than they were last year, where there were a ton of injuries. And again, are a ton of injuries when you take out your best defensive player in Derek Brown, you take out one of your defensive leaders in Shaq Thompson as well, and then there's other guys that you are hoping would be impact players who just have not played so far this season. I don't know what to reasonably expect at this point in time. And I don't really know, when you look at what they have brought in and like what they lost, which is not like they lost an overwhelming amount of talent aside from like Burns and Luvu. And I think Chin still can be a good player. Like Von Bell was a good player in Cincinnati before he came here. I have a hard time sitting here and thinking like this is all on the coordinator. Does he need to do a better job? Absolutely. Should he be absolved of any blame? No. The talent is just not there, y'all. They cannot rush the passer. I don't see anyone on this roster that has that talent to be a high-level pass rusher. I just don't see it. Clowney came in and said that stopping the run is a mentality where pass rushing is an art. It's an art that he's never mastered and quite honestly has been kind of lackluster at the majority of his career, if we're just being honest. And everyone else, DJ Johnson, you're not getting it from him. Charles Harris, you're not going to get it from those guys. Stopping the run should have been better this year. But when you lose Derek Brown and you're bringing in journeyman like Robinson, who was certainly supposed to be a plus over Deshaun Williams, so I think he's been, there's only so much you can hope for. Secondary, you got injuries there. I don't know. Again, I'm at a loss. I'm trying to find new ways to describe what we see week in, week out. The Packers and Rams wanted Ejiro Evero for a reason. And if he's coaching those teams, I don't know if this is the result that they're getting. Now, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see if he's here next year or not. We'll see what changes, if Dave Canales wants to make a midseason change or not. I don't know how it's going to change anything. In football, you basically have your scheme. Yes, like offensively, you saw an identity shift a couple years ago when Steve Wilkes took over and they went to more ground and pound, and they got Sam Darnold back, and he played some of the best football we had seen from him in his career up until, of course, now in Minnesota. So we've seen that mentality shift and identity change, but defensively with what they got going on, I don't know what good it does for Ejiro Evero. It would honestly probably be a blessing for him, as he was held hostage by the owner. And had the owner not held him hostage, he's probably coordinating in LA or Green Bay right now and does not have a fan base blaming him for the lack of talent on the roster defensively, because they sacrificed the defense for the offense to improve, and it's still not like an above average offense in the NFL. I don't know. That's not the best analysis in the world. I'm running out of answers. They have no answers. That's just where we're at again here in Carolina. So I'll take another quick pause and come back and try to think about the state of affairs and where they go from here. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play. $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions to real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Sitting here following the Panthers 38-20 loss, going full surrender cover here on YouTube live. Appreciate all the folks watching, and also apologies because I usually got something for you. But I just don't today. I just don't today after watching that game. If you can't get stops, you can't force punts. Even when you get turnovers, your offense can only turn those into a grand total of 9 points so far. Only field goals is what the offense is getting, and it's not on the offense. I have a hard time sitting here and having anything new to say about what we have seen, as this is a bad defense. The offense is better, but not good enough to overcome a bad defense. The Panthers are riddled once again with injuries. I just don't know how every single season this team seems to have the worst injury luck in the NFL, and they will certainly get some guys back. They had Ian Thomas back today. I know no one's going to celebrate that, of course. They'll get Tommy Tremble back eventually. They'll get Josie Jewell back. Jadeveon Clowney, he'll come back. They'll get Dane Jackson at some point in time, and they'll hopefully get better. But right now, it's bleak. And you look at the schedule remaining, where when you look at the offense after the Raiders game, and even after Cincinnati, defensively, they didn't play well in that game, but this game, offensively, they followed up that performance against Las Vegas. You can still see the Bears game. That felt like, all right, Chicago's been struggling offensively. Maybe we can win that game. The Falcons, we'll see. It's going to be kind of tough because that's a bad matchup, knowing that they want to run the football. Washington, we weren't sure just yet whether they were a legitimate kind of team, and they certainly have shown that way. Denver, okay, that's Bo Nix hasn't looked great. You could talk yourself into it. Now sitting at 1-5. I don't know what you're talking yourself into if you're a Panther fan. Commanders game next Sunday on the road. I mean, you got back-to-back road games. The Commanders game will be tough because Jaden Daniels has looked good. He's also a rookie, so could make mistakes. They lost to Baltimore today. Baltimore, obviously, a much better team than Carolina. The Broncos game, I still look at it as the game the Panthers can win, because Bo Nix, God love him, I don't see it. I just don't. And Saints are still throwing out there Spencer Rattler, maybe there's an opportunity at home, and then Giants in Munich, and then it gets tough after the bye home against Kansas City. I put out the tweet, the stock image of the farmer's market. Feels like it's that time, y'all. I thought to myself about 2 years ago, sitting in this position, Panthers 1-5, Wilkes takes over, PJ Walker starting at quarterback for a little bit, and they were able to turn things around. I'm trying my hardest to see how that happens, because I do think Tampa's pretty good, and they sit at 4-2. Atlanta, I mean, they're all right. I picked them to win the division, doing our NFC South preview this year on Locked On. I like Tampa more. Quite honestly, even if they've beaten Tampa, still think they're a better, like, those are two teams I just don't know if the Panthers can catch up to, even after 6 weeks and with still 11 games left to play. It's hard to really put together an argument for how it's going to turn around. And that's like a hopeless feeling as a fan, as someone who's commentating on this team and wants to be able to find the positives. Like the one positive for sure I take from this game was that last drive at the end of the first half, and seeing Sanders involved and seeing Coker involved and seeing Leggett get another touchdown and ride off on Dollar Bill. Like, that's awesome to see. What's not awesome is to see a block punt and then your team not down the punt, and Clark Phillips picks it up and runs for 16 yards. And then there's a hold call to boot, and the Falcons started to drive the 27-yard line against a defense that can't get off the field. I love seeing Trevin Wallace force that fumble on Ray McLeod and to fight and get that ball from him. Love to see that. So there are positives to take away from this game. There's just not enough to take away and to look at what's ahead and to think, oh yeah, that's this team. They can circle the wagons. They can get it figured out, and they can be right back there in the thick of things in December. No. Now this feels over. Still got plenty of games. I'm still going to talk about them. Still going to look at this season as a rebuild and a way to evaluate some players. There's still plenty of things to look at as far as, what you get out of Xavier Leggett. I mean, it didn't look like Mingo was a big part of the game, but what you can get, you have some of your young receivers. Ike Ekwonu, still worth looking at him. JC Horn as one of these leaders defensively. Trevin Wallace, that's something to look at. Like, there's still things to watch. But as far as will this team be in contention later on this season for a wild card or for the division? No, that is over. Unfortunately, yet again here in Carolina. And I'm so sick and tired of this, man. Truly am. Like 15 times, like I've been doing this show now since March 21. It's my 4th season doing it. And 15 times I've come up here and been able to talk about a winning effort. This is all I do is talk about losing effort, the state of affairs of how things are royally screwed around here in Carolina. I'm over it. Like 1-5 this year. They were 0-6 a year prior. They were 1-5 the year before that. At least in 21, when I first started doing this, they were 3-0. I'm as sick of it as all of you are. I would love to go back to even just like 19 and 18, where they get off to a 4-2 start or 6-2 start and completely collapse. Because at least you dared to dream in October and November. But the way things have been going the last couple of years, we get here to mid-November, and it's already like, well, season's over. Farmer's market, that's what Julian's going to tell us. And yeah, farmer's market. Yeah, it sucks. So that's where it is. 38-20. The defense is terrible. Don't see how it's going to get better, because they didn't have a sack today, right? Let me go look at that. I mean, they did get some decent pressure in this game, but overall, it was a lot of the same that we saw. Yeah, no sacks, and Andy Dalton did not get sacked. So good job by Josh Nijman and Brady Christensen and this offensive line, minus Austin Corbin, Taylor Moton to hold up. Second straight week, I believe they did not give up a sack, so good for them. Yeah. Don't know how to spin this to where this team's going to figure it out. So that's the show. All right, that's gonna wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe, follow the show free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council. Where on Wednesday, I'll be back to answer your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. Go ahead, get those into me now. And about 5 o'clock on Tuesday is the deadline to get those questions in. So at me, DM me, I'll answer your questions, and I'll try to answer as best I can as the Panthers fall to 1-5 on this season. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always and forever, keep pounding, and I will talk to y'all on Tuesday.